10, 9, ignition sequence start. All engines are running.
Liftoff and the clock is starting.
Roger, the clock is operating. We're underway.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We're walking on sunshine right into Kerbalcast, episode 18. You go, GERTY.
Sam, I can only account for what occurs on the base.
I am your LMP, that's Lunar Module Pilot Biff Aldrin. And with us, as always, our CMP, Command Module Pilot,
Nostromo.
Coming up in today's program,
Your letters and the latest Kerbal news in our mission briefing.
and Dark Mushroom is back with part 2 of his 3-part series on rendezvous and docking.
DK from the Twitch TV channel Declarations has this week's Modders Minute.
And we have another Shea challenge for you.
Our latest progress in the game.
And by request, but I digress. Moon. Do you know, when I say by request, literally by 2 requests.
Yeah, we've had 2 requests for that one.
We've had 2 requests. Dahood,
Uh-huh.
or as I call him,
The dude.
and DK have both asked us to talk about the movie Moon.
Okay.
So, yeah, we will get to that later in the program. How have you been? We were off for a week because our schedules conflicted.
We had a little hiatus. And just to address all the concerns, we are okay.
Yes, we're fine.
We're as okay as we normally are.
Yeah.
So, I've been hectically busy. This is a kind of a busy time for work.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I managed to squeeze some hours into the game, and otherwise it's been a little hectic, a little busy.
Well, you're working right now. You're working 6-day weeks.
Yeah,
So,
at least 60 hours.
This is just to show you how dedicated Nos is. This is his day off, and how is he spending it? Doing a podcast
with you guys, of course.
With you guys. What tickles me is because of the schedule you're working, and I mean, you work like early in the morning, and then you have a break, and then you work late at night. So
yeah.
So you're trying to cram in some sleep and some eating and just whatever. So I mean, you have a full day.
Oh, no, I'm a multitasker.
Yeah, exactly.
I sleep and drive.
Yeah. Well, why not?
Well,
right?
yeah, there you go.
Yeah. What tickles me is I know you don't have much time to play lately.
Yeah.
So the night before we podcast, you're always in there furiously cramming. It's like, I got to get an hour or so.
It's like a throwback to my college days, trying to cram in as much time as I can.
I have this image of you like chugging No-Dos and Red Bull.
Yeah.
Going, come on, Mud. Come on.
We're going to make it.
Come on. Daddy needs something to talk about.
Yeah. I should have gone for the harder planets first, because I could have just done the mun real quick,
done the mun.
Yeah, I've gotten to the point to where it's not that hard.
Yeah,
to get to the mun. So now I'm having to step out a little bit more.
That's one thing about this game that tickles me is that things that used to be so difficult get to the point where you do them without even thinking about them.
Yeah,
but you're now dealing with something else that seems so difficult.
Yeah, and eventually it'd be like, oh man, I remember whenever that was hard. Yeah. And now it's the easy thing.
Well, I used to just bang my head against the table when it came to rendezvous. I mean, now I put a tanker in orbit this past week, and I had to, by the time I got up into orbit, it had a lot of empty tanks. And so I had to send more tankers up to refuel it so that the thing was fully fueled and ready to go.
Yeah.
I think it took me a grand total of 5 rendezvous and docks to get that thing refilled. And I mean, it was like, launch a tanker, rendezvous, dock, transfer fuel, launch another tanker, rendezvous, dock. And I mean, I was just doing it just like boom, boom, boom. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I was thinking to myself, a year ago, it would have taken you a month to do one rendezvous, and here I am just knocking them out.
It's like, oh, there's a lot of empty tanks on that one.
Yeah.
Oh well. I guess there's a lot of empty tanks on that one. What do you want me to do?
Stuff happens.
Yeah.
Well, since you did your cramming, I want you to go first on progress.
So with the few hours I managed to jam pack in, today and last night, what I managed to do, I was knocking out some contracts. Mm-hmm. And I realized a major mistake. One of the contracts is Explore Minmus, which I hadn't done Minmus yet. I've done Mun, and I've gotten pretty used to landing things on the Mun. It's been pretty fun.
Right.
And
the Mun is fun?
The Mun is fun. I'm going to bumper sticker right there.
You're having fun in the sun on the Mun?
So I now that I have solar panels, yes. So I was trying to get on Minmus, and I kept trying, and I have this problem where if I succeed with one kind of craft, I want to just keep using that craft and make some tweaks here and there.
Right.
And I was running into some huge problems with the one I had because it was a triangular craft.
Again, given the limited window that you have to actually play, it makes sense to me that you don't want to waste a certain amount of it building custom ships every time.
Yeah, because you go to launch it and you go like, oh, okay, now I need this. So if I have any ship that's given me any like modicum of success, I want to try to perpetuate it, like keep that going with okay, I just need to add one or two fuel tanks and now I'll be able to do this.
Somebody posted on the Kerbal subreddit the Kerbal the first contract system is causing me to create some very weirdly specific ships.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I've had some weird looking ones that I've like, it's like, oh, okay, I just need this to get this high, and then I get the contracts and hope it doesn't blow up before then. And it always does.
Yeah. I've got a ship with 6 grabbers on it.
Yeah. The grabby.
Grabby.
So, I was using the ship that I got to the Mun with. The one I talked about had the like most fuel efficient ship I'd ever made. Like nothing was wasted.
Right.
And I go to try. I'm trying to take this one to Minmus. So I add on like a couple more boosters and a couple more fuel tanks and like a second, maybe an extra stage here and there. So I'm launching this thing, and I was running into an issue or two with the game in general, but as far as building goes,
explain.
Well, one of them I'll get to in a second.
Okay.
Another one that whenever I'm building, like, I don't know if it's more common in a triangle built ship, because I was doing Symmetry 3.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I don't know if it's more common or not, but if I was off on the slightest, it would completely rock that thing.
Oh, okay.
Like it was.
If you don't have your balance right.
Yeah. So anything that I built that was like Symmetry 4 or something like that was a lot more stable. So
it's like a 3-legged stool. I mean, 3 legs.
It's sturdy, but if you knock it one way, there's not much to keep it from going all the way.
Three legs when you get right down to it is unstable. That's. I know this is a hellacious digress, but War of the Worlds. You remember the aliens were walking around on tripods.
Yeah,
and I always thought to myself, these Martians aren't very smart because they've got a 3-legged.
Yeah, you take out one leg and it's
you take out one leg and the thing's on the ground.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So
where does my mind go?
The thing was going pretty well, and something that just kind of drives me nuts is like if I need to remove a stage and change anything like that, struts. Like the thing that drives me nuts with those things, how I'm nuts about struts.
You're nuts about struts.
While
you have fun in the sun on the moon.
Attaching them to a booster. It goes inside the booster.
Yeah.
And that like.
And if you want to get rid of it, you can't find. You
can't select it.
Yeah.
And so there's the other half of the strut, like the connecting the end piece, and you can't select the end piece. You have to select the origin piece.
Question.
Yes.
Are you saying that like if you attach a strut to a booster and the strut itself like disappears into the booster, you can't get to it?
It sinks into it.
Okay. Here's a tip. Use Control Z. And what it does is it goes back a step.
Okay.
In the game.
Now
that's like, for example, if you accidentally delete something, Control Z. Yeah, it's your Control Z. I don't remember how many times, but you can keep going Control Z.
Yeah, like MS Paint lets you do it like 3 times or something until they changed it.
But anyway, if it's the last thing you did, you can undo it with Control Z.
Yeah, that's been the hard part though. Is sometimes it's not the last thing I did.
Yeah.
So I don't know why it just sinks in on those boosters. Like it doesn't do it on anything else. I'm fine with that. But it's just on those boosters. It'll sink in. And you're like, well, I guess that's how it's going to be forever if I do one more thing,
Well, and then sometimes when you go and launch that craft, you have a strut that basically sticks out to nowhere.
Yeah.
And so you're flying a ship that's got whiskers.
Yeah, and it's another thing that was frustrating about building something in 3 symmetries. If putting RCS on it, RCS in 3s doesn't really work great.
Yeah.
So on the central tube, it doesn't need to be Symmetry 3.
Right.
I could try to do Symmetry 4, but anytime I would put it on there, it would automatically snap to 3, so I'd have to adjust it every time.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I click for it to be 4, then that means I want it to be 4.
Sometimes I'll do like symmetry 8, and then when
Yeah.
I go to put something on it, it switches to symmetry 8, and it's like all of a sudden I've got 8 floodlights. It's like, wow!
Yeah, it's like if I click for it to be that, then it shouldn't auto adjust.
Yeah.
But like if I select a new part, then it should automatically go back to auto adjust unless I click it to be that.
Right.
You know, because like anytime I try to, you had to put on that one strut.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, okay, good, and then you add something else, and then you'd see that one strut didn't go to symmetry, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I just put on one strut. Well, now I got to put on those 4 struts again, but I can't undo what I just did. So now it's a 0.05 heavy on this side, and somehow that's going to matter. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, you end up in this just like death spiral of endless add-ons of weight.
And SAS does nothing to help.
No.
Yeah, that's it's when you launch and because you've got to the left of you, you've got where it shows you your pitch and your yaw and your roll and everything, and you launch and you just sit there and you just slowly watch that gauge start to lean, and you're like, no.
Yeah, right. Well, I can't help that.
Pretty soon you're pointing at the ground.
Yeah. I was having a lot of that.
Yeah.
So for some reason, like I didn't have too much issue with it, but whenever I was going to the MUN, but going to Minmus, and I was just pointing the other direction. Whenever I would start my 45-degree tilt after 10,000.
Right.
Yeah, it was just getting exceedingly difficult.
Right.
And so I, adjustments here and there, and I finally get this thing to go into orbit and be stable and start going around. Well, I start building my orbit, getting the maneuver node going, winding it up with min-miss, getting it to intersect. At one point, I actually ended up passing by the MUN, and so I just used the MUN's gravity as like a slingshot, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Which was
Gravity
really cool.
assist.
Because I was just slingshotting by it, using it to curve, and you just see this giant, like, you see it cresting past the sun and stuff,
Yeah.
and you're like, whoa. It's like, I was like, I've been there, but that's still cool. Like,
Yeah.
It's like seeing, because I was in orbit view the entire time, but I just went out of orbit view to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love especially when you go, when the MUN is between you and the sun, and you get into that very dark, that little dark corridor on the back side of it. It's like, that's really, because you turn and you look and there's this giant black circle.
Yeah.
And
it's like there's no stars or anything. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, it just blocks out everything, doesn't it?
And unless you've got lights on your ship, sometimes it's difficult to see the ship.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's moments like that to me that are just so cool. And I know it's in a video game, but it's like, wow, that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So that was pretty cool. That's when I ran into the other problem that I was having. So I line up this maneuver node, and this thing's supposed to go right by Minimus.
Right.
And so I'll be caught by the gravity, and we're good. Well, I set the node, and then I go back to steer my ship, and it's not moving. And I'm like, uh-oh.
Huh?
So I check my resources. I'm out of RCS, but it still should move.
Right. Do you have electricity?
Full. Because I have
Okay.
solar panels. And it's just not responding. So I'm like, okay, it's not doing anything. So I tried to do the next stage. And I was clicking on the ship, and then I would try right-clicking the command pod.
Right.
And it wouldn't bring up any menus. It would just show me like how much electric charge and stuff it had. It wouldn't bring up the crew report options or any of that.
Right.
And so I was like, okay. And so I time warped a little, and then I untime warped, and it still did that. I tried it again and changed views a couple times, and then it let me. But by then I had passed the node. So I was like, okay, well, F9. And, I went and tried it again. And it was...
Is that like a glitch?
I think so.
Okay.
It was working fine most of the time, but every now and then everything would freeze up. So I'd have to time warp for a little bit and untime warp. So I was being real conservative with my time warping.
Yeah.
So normally I time warp till I had about a minute to go before the node.
Right. It's real easy to overshoot those.
Yeah, I was time warping until I had 10 minutes, and then if my stuff was locked up,
Right.
I would time warp and till 8 minutes and try until I could get it going.
I had mentioned that I'm having that problem with right clicking.
Yeah.
Are you having that problem?
I haven't encountered it yet.
Okay. Because I get to the point. It's like if I F9, especially if I F9 more than once. I get to the point where I'm and this is not an exaggeration. I'm literally pounding on the right mouse key.
Yeah.
Or button.
Yeah.
It's just click, 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 click.
Yeah. Like,
You
come
know,
on.
and there's been a couple of points where it's like, you know, click, 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 and it still won't do it.
Yeah.
You know what I have to do? If I get to where it won't right click at all, the only thing I can do at that point, if I'm in space,
Save and close.
well, what I do is I F5 to save it to make sure that, you know, that's kind of my safety save. But then what I do is I escape back to the space center. I go to the tracking center.
Oh, and then click
select
to
the
fly.
ship, select fly the ship, and that usually resets it. But yeah, I run into that problem where my right click just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, you're still having that.
Yeah. It's been continuous. I'm curious if I'm the only one.
Yeah. So I continued messing with it.
Please write in if you're having the same problem.
I just don't want to be so alone in this.
Yeah, I don't want to be alone.
So-
Somebody's going to write in and go, "It's you, jerk.
Yeah. So
It's just you."
I kept trying this thing, and it just kept not doing much for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, besides having that freeze up issue, because it's funny, all the views and stuff worked, and I could click and look at all my resources. It's just I couldn't steer.
Right.
And I had plenty of electric charge and all that. It was really weird. But
That's
besides,
really strange.
I eventually found the workaround to it, just to time warp and untime warp to.
And you weren't, and you had said that you couldn't bring up the menu where you could select control from here. It would be on the same menu as crew report.
Oh yeah, I couldn't bring up that menu.
Okay.
So I was just like, okay, whatever. So I found the workaround, which was time warping and untime warping, just to sort of refresh it, I guess.
I'm wondering if somehow or the other, and I mean, you got to understand, this is me really thinking way out.
Speculating.
Yeah, really speculating. But I'm wondering, you can use your bracket keys to switch, to switch ships.
Yeah.
I wonder if somehow or the other you got, was it just the crew in charge of your ship, or did you have a remote control on there somewhere, or
no?
Did you have because once in a while if I have, like, for example, I'll put like a remote control unit if it's something that I intend to detach from, land, and then come back and dock with. I will leave a remote control unit on my target vessel, and once in a blue moon, I'll get it to where the game thinks I'm trying to control the remote control.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of the manned ship. And I'm going, why is it not doing anything?
Yeah, it wouldn't even let me turn off SAS and RCS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that sounds like a glitch.
It was weird. So
I'm sorry. I keep interrupting.
No, it's
Go ahead.
okay. So I continue trying to fly this thing, a couple retries, a couple, minor tweaks, relaunches. And I finally get, like, my orbit is, like, in line. I'm going to run into the Minmus.
Okay.
I'm not looking to land on it this time. I'm just looking to orbit it, and get some data and complete part of that contract.
Now, had you adjusted for the slope of Minmus's orbit?
Yeah, I'm getting to that.
Oh, okay.
So I go to intersect this thing, and I'm moving the maneuver node, and it's not giving me,
An intersect?
An intersect.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is it? And I was like, I heard that their gravity was different, but it's like, it can't be so weak that I could run into it and not encounter it. And so I keep messing with it and there's a thing called the Z-axis that is a little bit different. So I just hit the down key while I was in the M view.
Yeah.
And I look, and they're just miles.
Yeah.
Like, they're so
You're
far.
basically coming in above it.
Yeah, I was.
If I understand you
I
correctly.
was so far above it, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was nowhere near it at all.
Right.
Like, on the X and Y axis, it lined up, but on the Z axis, we were so far apart.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, and that's where I left off.
Yeah.
So.
Especially when you're really zoomed out on the map view.
Yeah.
It can look like you're running right into Minmus.
But
it isn't until you zoom in, you go, oh, I'm overshooting it way high.
Yeah, because the MUN is easy because you start on the same axis as it does.
Yeah, they're in the same orbital plane.
Yeah,
but
so it's like,
Minmus has a tilted plane.
Yeah, so it's like
compared
really
to
easy
Kerbal.
to line up with.
Kerbin.
Yeah, so we're gonna keep trying on Minmus. Yeah. So
Well, I had said this before. The easiest way to get to Minmus, and I'm using easy in a relative sense here, but obviously because of the tilt of its plane, there's 2 points where it intersects Kerbin's orbital plane.
Yeah.
And if you can hit one of those 2 points, you don't have to change your plane.
Mm-hmm.
But trying to hit those 2 points, especially when you're trying to do it for the first time, that's a tough little target to hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah, that can be kind of rough.
But anyway, so that's where you're at now.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. So
Okay.
in the few hours I managed to stack in, like I'm trying to build a triangular ship again.
Yeah.
And finding out that there's more than just the X and Y axis. I'm trying to get them in this.
Well, what you can do, and I understand there's really technically no up and down in space and whatever, but I mean, in reference to if you line your ship up to where you've got Kerbin in the back, behind you, and you use Kerbin as a visual reference, if you'll point the nose of your ship straight down, and then go to your map view, and make sure you hit your number key, your insert key on the number pad. In other words, you've got your nav ball up.
Yeah.
Once you've pointed your ship straight down, and you can sit there and you can see your intersect node or your trajectory as it nears Minmus, if you will slowly burn, you'll see that your trajectory line will slowly lower until it does intersect Minmus. So anyway, that's another little tip.
So Kerbin to the back of me.
Yeah.
Nose cone to the front. Stuck in the middle with Minmus.
Stuck in the middle with you.
Stuck in the middle. Stuck in the middle with Minmus.
Get away from my ear. Do not cut it off.
Can you hear me?
Or
Can
at
you
least
hear me that way?
or at least if you do, just pan away for a minute.
Yeah.
And then cut back. So anyway. So is that your progress?
Yeah, I see that you have a notepad.
Look at
that notepad.
Do you know why I did a notepad? Is because every week when we do progress, it's like you go, so what's your progress? And my brain goes blank.
None. Okay, let me make up something real quick.
Yeah, and then what follows is several minutes of me fumbling around, going, well, let's see, I did this, and I actually made some notes.
See, notepads like that kind of plan is for people who accomplish things. That's why this guy over here. That's why Nos doesn't have a notepad.
Well, that's because Nos has a job that's working in the background.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I'm going to start with my total hours in the game. 745 now.
Oh man.
Yeah, I've added quite a few.
Yeah.
Okay. First note on my notepad. For the very first time ever, I collided with debris in orbit. Oh, it was bad.
Littering is bad.
Yeah.
And you're paying.
Oh, and I learned that the hard way.
You're paying the price now.
Yeah. And I was going to make I was beginning an interplanetary transfer. And I throttled up to full power, and I was thinking, this is going to be perfect. When you collide with debris in the game, you get this massive Death Star explosion on the screen.
Nice.
And when it's over with, there's nothing left.
Wow.
There's no debris. I mean, there's nothing.
You know what? Good, because it only would have made the problem worse.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, but I mean, literally, it was this gigantic explosion, and it completely caught me off guard.
Did you revert it? And
I reverted back.
Okay.
But it caught me off guard, and I think I jumped about 3 feet.
Well, at least you're not you didn't save 2 seconds before it hit. It's oh, okay, I'll just revert.
I have done saves like that.
Yeah, like the Groundhog Day. Chain of explosions.
It's like you reload just in time to fall to your death again. Okay, so that was note number 1. The other thing, I wanted to update you. The last time we spoke, I was talking about my adventures in Jewel, around Jewel, and I told you that I had a ship that was orbiting Lathe.
Uh-oh.
Well, I have discovered that if I leave a crew in orbit on a distant planet more than a week, you might as well just write them off.
Yeah.
Because some stupid thing that only I could think of inadvertently will happen.
Yeah.
This is what happened. I had the Kerbal Engineer Redux mod installed, and for some reason it kept making my game crash. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so finally, I went ahead and just deleted the mod out of my Kerbal game folder and then reloaded the game. And when I did, it came up and it said, okay, these ships are no longer available because they have Kerbal Engineer mod. Okay, fine. And when I read that, I assumed that all these ships had disappeared out of my vehicle assembly building menu. Well, the ship that was in orbit around Lathe with my 3 crewmen had Kerbal Engineer on it. That ship disappeared also. So those 3 guys just disappeared.
Yeah, it never happened.
It just never happened.
Did you keep any science or anything that you got from that expedition?
I'm in Sandbox.
Oh, okay.
So there was no science.
It doesn't not matters anyway.
Yeah. But because you remember several weeks ago, it's actually probably been a couple of months now. Remember, I had guys that were stranded on Eve. And I kept I kept sending rescue missions and ended up having more people stranded on Eve.
I think that was long enough ago. That was before 0.24 came out. And then you just wiped the whole thing to start.
Yeah,
0.24.
and then when it came out, I wiped it with that, and then it was like, oh, I had guys stranded on Eve. So anyway, me, Kerbal Knots, and Distant Planets, more than a week, forget it.
Yeah.
Just call their widows.
You have a shelf life.
Yes, just call their widows and say, hey, guess what Goofy Biff did? But anyway, so that was the very anticlimactic end to my Lathe mission. Okay, next thing on my list. Do you remember I had said that for the longest time I was trying to install roster prop monitor?
Yeah, and then they made it easier.
Yeah, but it does all of the fancy control, the instrumentation inside your craft. For fun, I actually decided to try and fly a mission as much as possible from inside the capsule.
Oh, yeah, because there's like all that extra buttons and stuff.
All of that's there. And I discovered, I'm assuming that this is part of Roster Prop Monitor. I'm assuming they added it. But one of the options you have 8 different camera views that you can set up. And an additional part that gets added to your VAB menu, and this is under the utility tab, is a camera, and you can put 8 cameras on your ship, and you right click and designate what number it is. Camera 1, camera 2, whatever, and it takes some trial and error to kind of figure out the best place to put the cameras. But I actually flew a mission. Not entirely, because there was for example, you can't select something, but I would launch and get into orbit and that sort of thing. But I did it entirely from the cabin view, and it was the 3-person cabin. So there's the guy, there's 2 guys sitting by the windows, and then there's a 3rd guy that's under them.
Yeah,
and that guy has no window view whatsoever. Well, that's the view that I was flying from. Okay. And I had set up the cameras, and I had it set to where I could, I could look straight down so I could see the engines firing and I could see the stages dropping away. I had other views looking out to the side so that I could see, for example, when I lifted off, I could see the Kerbal Space Center, all the buildings. I could watch those as they fell away, and I could see the mountains in the distance. And on the other side, I could see the water, and I could see the islands and whatever. It changes. It's a completely different experience to fly from just the cabin view.
I bet.
It's really, because I'm so used to flying from an external view where you can see everything. So to actually just fly from the instruments, I recommend it if you're looking for something new in the game, kind of a new experience. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And also, you have to kind of relearn your flying, because, for example, I had missed a step when I was getting up into orbit. And all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute, I'm not gaining any altitude here. And what had happened was I had gone up and over my apoapsis without even realizing it.
Oh.
And it's so, when you're in an external view, that is so obvious.
Yeah.
But when you're in a capsule view, it's not. So, I mean, it changes the way you fly. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so I recommend it. If you have not done, install Roster Prop Monitor, which gives you a whole new world of instrumentation. Set up your cameras so that you can click around and look at things. And try and fly a mission, fly it into orbit. I've got a camera pointing directly straight ahead. That makes it's very interesting to dock that way.
Yeah.
Because usually when I've been docking, kind of like looking from a side view or looking, straight down or whatever. But I've never been able to look straight on. And so with the camera pointed straight ahead, if you're docking from a capsule view, you do, I mean, it's a little offset, obviously, because you can't have a camera right in the middle of your docking port.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to be able to sit there and, because you've got your electronic nav ball in front of you, and you've got a camera that shows you where, what you're pointing directly at. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you've got other information as well. Roster Prop Monitor allows you to bring up a target window, and like you can select docking port and whatever, and so that'll give you some data as well. But it's a whole new experience. So I highly recommend it.
Was it harder to dock like that?
It is and it isn't.
Yeah.
It's harder in the sense that you have to rely less on visuals and more on your instrumentation. Your nav ball, the center point of your nav ball is essentially the nose of your ship. And if you select like the docking port on your target, if you select that as your target, as long as the center point on your nav ball is lined up with the center of your target, technically that's all you have to look at to dock. But I'm so used to doing it visually, it helps to be able to have that camera over there where I can kind of look at that as well. But yeah, it changes it in the sense that you're paying much more attention to your instrumentation as opposed to your visual. Because, when you do it visually, it's real easy to see if you're not aligned properly. It's just, there's a lot of clues there that you get that you don't get from the cockpit view. But I would imagine the cockpit view is actually more realistic. When you think about astronauts in real life that are trying to dock, they're not able to get out and float, 30 feet away from their ship while they control it in. For novices that are trying to learn rendezvous and docking, I have a suggestion. Get a tanker, get something up in orbit that has a lot of empty tanks, okay? Mm-hmm. In other words, as you're getting into orbit, don't drop your tanks. Just take them up with you, okay? Get into a nice stable orbit, 100 kilometers, whatever, okay? Get yourself a nice stable orbit. And then start launching other tankers, other ships that are basically the same as the one that you've got up there with the empty tanks.
Yeah.
And you can drop those stages. That's no problem. But here's what I was going to suggest. If you will use the empty tanker in orbit as a target for rendezvous and dock, just keep doing it over and over again. What's nice about doing that is, A, it gives you lots of practice with rendezvous and dock. Okay, but B, you're actually accomplishing something. You're creating a fueling station in orbit. Uh-huh. So, I mean, you're not just wasting time.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's the third thing, which I think is kind of cool. Let's say that you have a tanker that has, the center engine, and then it's got 6 more around it. Mm-hmm. Well, if you can rendezvous and dock and have, let's say, 3 tanks left when you dock, the next time you rendezvous and dock, if you do it and you've got, let's say, 4 tanks left, or the next time you do it, you've only got 1 left, or the levels change, you can use that as a reference to how much better you're doing or worse you're doing compared to the previous time you did it. So it's a good way.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Well, you've got what it is you have you've got a stable target that you're going for. You're creating a fueling station in orbit, and it gives you a benchmark to gauge your progress.
Yeah, a way to meter it.
The better you get, the more fuel you're going to have when you do finally dock and transfer that fuel. So anyway, that's my recommendation. It's not a challenge.
Yeah.
It's just it's a tip for novices. If you want to learn rendezvous and dock, that's my suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, try for that next time we do it.
Well, do you want to move on?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move along. It is time now for Dark Mushrooms, Dark Matters. And he is doing, speaking of orbital rendezvous and docking, he's doing a 3-part series, and this is part 2.
Orbiting low and from behind Kerbalcast comes another edition of Dark Mushrooms, Dark Matter. My name's Dark Mushroom, and today, my intrepid fellow Kerbalnauts, we rendezvous. In our last episode, we established a scenario where Jebediah would like to prepare for a transfer to Duna and decides to put her fuel tank into orbit in one launch and send her ship up on the next. To begin, she placed an orbiting fuel probe sitting in a circular 100-kilometer equatorial orbit around Kerbin. Now it's time to build our chaser, the ship that will be rendezvousing with the target. Critical components include a Sepratron, extra RCS monopropellant, 3 or more RCS ports placed symmetrically around your transfer vehicle's center of gravity, and lights on or near your docking port. Also, because this specific rendezvous is for refueling, feel free to empty out any upper stage tanks that will be refueled in orbit in order to massively improve your overall thrust-to-weight ratio. Alright guys, let's hit the launch pad. Hit M and set the probe as your target. Looking down at the Kerbal Space Center, gently time accelerate until your target is at the right hand or 3 o'clock position. Next, complete your launch maneuvers to put your ship into a circular 80-plus kilometer orbit. None of this has to be exact, we just want our chaser in a lower orbit than our target. Why though? Why a lower orbit? This is the essential trick to rendezvous. The magic of meeting up with another vessel screaming across the horizon at mind-boggling speeds lies entirely in relative orbits. The ship in the higher orbit is moving slower relative to the ship in the lower orbit. In this case, our chaser is moving faster than our target and will pass it if we fail to adjust. So, every orbit at your periapsis and apoapsis, adjust your altitude higher in order to slow your approach. I like to make 5-kilometer adjustments at a time. Logically, if it's taking too long to catch up, circularize and skip a burn or two. And if you're catching up too quickly, make larger adjustments to taste. As you practice getting the closest approach possible and matching your orbits, go ahead and send any questions to @darkmushroom87 on Twitter or by emailing kerbalpodcast@gmail.com with the subject line Dark Matter.
That was Dark Mushrooms, Dark Matters.
That was very good.
Yeah, that was great.
That was. You know what that made me think of, to be honest with you?
Rendezvous? I sure hope it did. That was the point.
That's the theme of today's episode is rendezvous. Now, we did, I think it was our second podcast, or it may have been our third, but I remember you and I was trying to explain rendezvous to you.
Yeah.
And I was trying so hard to explain it, and the more I talked, the more confused your face got.
I was so new to the game at that point. That was episode like 2 or 3. 2 or 3. And I was pretty sure I was probably less than 15 hours into the game, like maybe under 10, and I was just like, what? Well, and then whenever after we edited it, we took out so much that whenever we went back and listened to it, we're like, oh, it makes even less sense now. Yeah. You're like, you got to match up the thing with this thing. And I went back to listen to it, and I was like, I still don't understand what he's talking about. You know,
the listeners, obviously, they don't get to see our visual, our facial reactions. But the whole time I was talking, I could see the look on your face, and it was just getting
so lost,
perpetually more and more confused.
Yeah.
And that was like creating this anxiety within me to explain it better. So I kept trying, and your face kept getting more and more confused.
We were in this like perpetual confusion loop. Yeah. And it was it was awful.
But I mean, he said, in about a minute, he said what I was trying to say. And I think I talked for 15 minutes or whatever.
So good job, Dark Mushroom.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's move on to our mission briefing. This is where we read your letters, and we also talk about the latest Kerbal news, And Nos has our first story. Is it a letter or a story?
It's a story. This one comes from Brit Reddit. You know what? We need to get a robot to do this.
Brit Reddit?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like text to speech?
Yeah.
Brit Reddit.
Okay, so Brit Reddit posted this to the KSP subreddit. I've solved it. The origin of the Kerbals.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's so simple. Russia, having failed its previous attempts to study gecko mating habits in zero-G, well, because you got to know that.
Well, of course.
Send up a new probe with fresh geckos aboard. Whilst the geckos are orbiting, doing their thing,
which is what? Signing people up for insurance?
Yeah. A massive meteorite strikes the Earth, leaving a massive crater which can be seen to this day on the surface of Kerbin.
Okay, sound effect.
Wait, was it taking off or was it a crash?
No, that was the massive.
Oh, okay.
That was the asteroid and then the giant crater.
I'll buy it. A chunk of Kerbin is flung into high orbit, forming what we know as Minmus. The impact itself wipes out all life on the planet. Eventually, the orbit of the pod decays and comes screaming down onto the surface of planet Kerbin. The geckos, now the creatures we know and love as Kerbals, emerge.
Hello, mate. Would you like some insurance?
Evolved through... I thought he's British.
The Geico
Gecko?
thing? I thought he was Australian.
I don't know. You know that he was originally planned to be a character on Animaniacs?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Really?
He was going to be a character, and then they dropped him as like a British or Australian gecko, and they dropped it. And later on, that guy's like, "Well, I'm still going to use it." And now
very celebrainy.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
The geckos, now the creatures we know and love as Kerbals, emerged, evolved through years of exposure to solar radiation to be hyper-intelligent onto a bleak and empty landscape. They have but one piece of human technology left behind, the pod in which their species was formed, and from that they quickly analyzed enough to be able to understand the mysteries of space travel. Future Synth adds, it gets better. There were 4 females and 1 male on the probe. And, lucky fella.
Yeah.
Well, we think so. And
hard A.
the Gecko Bachelor.
The Gecko Bachelor.
Let's assume the geckos...
Hello, mate. Would you like some insurance?
Let's assume the geckos adopt a patronymic system for naming their children. The original gecko's surname was Kerman because he was the original father of the species. This changes everything.
Yes, it does. Yeah, I actually
some things.
just to show you how misinformed or uninformed I am. When I saw patronymic, it was like I immediately had to go look it up.
Oh yeah,
it's basically they all have. That's why they all have the same last name. So, this is part 2. We're moving on now. This is part 2 to a letter that we actually started in the previous podcast, and it's a lengthy letter, and that's why I broke it up because I wanted to make sure each part got the attention that it deserves. In part 1, North Star 1989 talked about a more efficient way to get into low Kerbin orbit. He was also responding because we had gotten a request from a listener to discuss interplanetary transfer.
Yeah, transfers, yeah.
And so he wrote in, and this is like an 8-page letter. So I have chopped this down considerably.
We need to hook him up with the guy who sent us he was writing the unofficial manual.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We need to get him on the writing team.
We need to hook him up together, yeah. And also, I want to say, North Star, thank you so much for taking the time to write this. I wish I could do it more justice, but I'm gonna breeze through here. Interplanetary transfer. In order to start an interplanetary transfer, you need to be aware of what the approximate positioning of the planets should be when you make the attempt. An ideal transfer window consists of a positioning of the planets, such that the innermost planet, the one closest to the sun, would connect with the planet further out from the sun if a straight line were drawn tangent to its orbit. Okay? What that means is if you're trying to transfer from Kerbin to a planet that is further out from the sun than you, that means that the target planet needs to be in front of you. When there's like a straight line from Kerbin to let's say Duna, okay? Let's say Duna. What you'll end up with is Kerbin is back a bit because, again, as we talked about with orbital rendezvous, the object that is quote unquote lower which in this case, Duna is higher from the sun than
Yeah,
Kerbin
yeah.
is. Well, Kerbin is moving faster than Duna is relative to Duna. Okay, so when you leave Kerbin, you want to make sure you're back behind Duna so that when you do increase your speed, that's when you intersect Duna. Quote, put another way, the planet further from the sun should be directly in front of the planet closer to the sun. That's where you do your transfer, okay? Now, I'm going to paraphrase everything else here. These are not North Star's words. These are mine, okay? Because there's a lot more to this. But to summarize just a few main points. This sounds like common sense, but you'd be amazed how many times I, at least, have done exactly the opposite. Make sure when you leave Kerbin orbit that you are traveling in the direction of the intended target planet. In other words, if Duna is in front of you, make sure you leave Kerbin orbit traveling towards Duna. Don't leave Kerbin orbit traveling away from Duna, because then you've got to burn fuel to catch up.
Yeah.
And also, once you actually do get into orbit around the sun, that's when you create another maneuver node, and that's where you create your intersection with your target planet. There's a lot more detail about this online. Those are just a few quick rules of thumb. And I want to thank North Star 1989. Hopefully I didn't butcher this too badly. But those are some tricks.
From Pun Pundit.
Pun Pundit.
I've been listening to all of your podcasts so far and finally decided to take up one of Shea's challenges. I was surprised when my first iteration of vertical takeoff and launch design with a rover worked. The included craft features version 1.1 of the design, where I added some control surfaces due to difficulty with keeping the nose up during horizontal flight.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's very tough.
Balancing anything, it's like,
Yeah.
usually, anytime you're building rockets, you want to spend as little time in the atmosphere as possible, trying to stay stable in that atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Note that, like all winged vertical takeoff and launches, it is extremely difficult to fly on the VTOL engines alone. Any speed above 10 meters per second will make it flip the hell out due to the aerodynamics of a winged craft. Use of SAS is recommended at all times. Add more boosters and try again.
We have a new close.
Yeah.
Yay. Yeah, actually, we've got a couple more that are coming up. Okay, moving on to our next letter. This comes to us from Amy K. in England. Hi, guys. Love the show as ever, but I had to comment on your thoughts on girl gamers.
Uh-oh.
I couldn't agree more with you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
there you go. You're good. And can't describe how infuriating and insulting at times interacting with some male gamers can be. I've had people assume I'm just playing a boyfriend's game or am automatically useless at any game. Yeah, that would irritate me, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that gets old.
Okay, this next sentence, I'm going to try and do this justice. You ready? Arg is the infuriation in me. Anyway. Anyway, keep up the good work. From a gamer girl who loves Kerbal, Amy K. in England. There's a YouTube video from BuzzFeed, and it's called If Geek Girls Acted Like Geek Guys. And it's a guy in a comic book store. And the whole time, the girl behind the counter is saying things like,
You have a girlfriend who's really into comics. That's why you like them. You're trying to impress her.
No.
I see. You're trying to get into things that girls like so that they'll like you.
and then other stuff like,
I bet you cosplay. What do you cosplay as? Can you show me pictures? Show me pictures of you cosplaying. What do you cosplay as? Slutty Hawkeye? Slutty Thor? That's so hot. I wish you were my boyfriend.
and the guy's like, can't I just come in and buy a thing? Anyway, it's really funny.
Nice.
Just a little backstory. What we were talking about was I had been watching Twitch TV, and there was a girl who was playing Kerbal Space Program, and I had mentioned the fact that when a guy is playing Kerbal on Twitch, the comments are people commenting on what he's doing and making suggestions and whatever. With her, there was some of that, but there was also, gee, you're pretty, and
your hair's so nice.
Oh, your hair's so pretty. Is that your real color?
Yeah.
And, real hair color. And
What's
and I
your
was
number?
just and
Give
I
me
was
your
just
number.
I was commenting that when a guy plays Kerbal on Twitch TV, he's a gamer. when a girl plays Kerbal on Twitch, she's a girl gamer.
Yeah.
In other words, she's a girl first and a gamer second.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was just basically saying I didn't think that was right. And you had chimed in with some other examples. In response to that, we also heard from Louis J. on Twitter. And he says, congrats to Kerbalcast for denouncing misogyny in gamer culture. We need to change bad behaviors from the inside. Thank you. We're trying. This is our little drop in the bucket.
Yeah, there we go. From Misha. Hi, Biff and Nos. First of all, as a new listener, I just
Are you sure it's Misha?
No, I don't know. Micah?
It's Micah. What is it? Micah, Misha, something like that. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to do text to speech and see what it
text-to-speech,
says.
what do you think of this?
Yeah.
Micha.
Micah. Micha.
Micha.
Micha. Micha.
Micah.
Micha. Misha.
I don't know if that really solved much.
Hi, Biff and Nos. First of all, as a new listener, I'd just like to congratulate you on your KSP podcast, which I find on the whole to be rather excellent.
Yay!
Yay! The only beef I have with it is that only about 50% seems to actually be about KSP.
Boo!
Well, actually, that's probably true.
Yeah,
that's pretty true.
Especially some of our earlier ones.
Between Biff's jokes going off topic all the time, usually about movie anecdotes, the huge But I Digress section, which so far has been all about space-related movies and not really that space-related, and the intro, outro, outtakes, there's hardly any time left to actually talk about KSP. Even the news section includes general space news, which I enjoy to listen to, but in my honest opinion should be in the But I Digress section, if anything. Could I pretty please suggest that you spend more time talking about KSP and less about various actors, movies, wordplays on listeners' names, and other sundry bits and pieces? Don't cut it out entirely. A bit of fun and on-topic digression is great, but it's just a bit much. Sorry if I come across as a bit negative, but I'm not really. The actual KSP-related stuff is great, and I really do enjoy listening to you guys, and the fact that you've gotten interviews from squad, modders, and scientists is awesome. But the amount of fluff is, unfortunately, kind of off-putting. P.S. Based on some of the online comments I've found, it seems that a lot of your listeners actually like to talk about movies to the point that they're making requests for ones to talk about, and so I guess I'm the odd one out. Or maybe it's an American thing to be so into discussing movies and actors and whatnot. Anyway, keep up the great work. Happy Kerbaling, and may you always find a snack in your lunchbox.
And he gave us a new sign-off.
Yeah, actually, in response to that, this is our first podcast, and we've been combining some segments recently and like making mega segments and having less breaks in between.
And we're working to get the balance right.
Yeah.
And I want to say right away, I thoroughly appreciate that letter.
Yeah.
I love praise, I'm human, but I also love constructive criticism, and that's what that is.
Yeah.
We need to hear what we're doing right, and we need to hear what we can do better.
Yeah.
And that is a good example. We've been trying very hard to get the balance right, and I think we're getting there.
Another thing was that we were, especially near the beginning, because whenever I think in part of the email that they had sent us before, they had they were only a couple episodes in when they first wrote it, and they came back later and they're like, "Oh, okay, you guys have cut down on the stuff like that."
Right.
Well, it's mainly because in the beginning we didn't have as many listeners, so we didn't have their letters to read, and it was just like our progress in the game, and so we could talk about that, and then we just needed some stuff to pad out time because we just wanted a little bit more in there, and then we did. The digress section was something I kind of came up with because at the beginning I knew nothing about Kerbal, so I was like, well, let's have something else to talk about so they just have something to talk about.
Right.
And we put that at the end so it's easily skippable. So you can have, if we're having a hour and a half podcast, then you have about an hour 10, hour 15 of Kerbal content, and then the last bit you just cut off, and boom, you have a straight Kerbal podcast.
Right. Seriously, I thank you so much for writing that. It's that kind of stuff that helps us get better.
Yeah, we appreciate all criticism like that. And, it's funny because we're talking about how some people will say, like, I really like your Digress segments, keep doing them. And other people are like, well, it's not really on topic. I'm not a big fan of them.
Right.
And so, like, we get a lot of things going both ways, but we take any criticism we have and we try to use it to make the podcast better.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, the other thing you may have noticed is when we record these, the initial recording, we usually record about 2 hours of material per podcast.
Yeah.
And the earlier podcasts, because we go and we edit, and in the earlier podcasts, I always felt like we were leaving too much out. Because when I would go back and listen to it, I always felt like things were cutting off way too soon. And then I finally one time thought, you know what, I'm going to let a lot more through than usual. And that was the one time we did.
It was like 2 hours,
it was like a 2-hour
minutes
podcast
or something.
And I was listening to it later going, oh, shut up. And it's bad when the person who recorded the podcast is getting bored with it.
Yeah.
So we're also, I think we're getting better at kind of editing down to the good stuff, and we leave the good stuff in, and we're getting better at sorting the chaff out from the wheat.
Yeah.
So anyway, but again, Micah, thank you so much. Sorry, I'm having so much fun with that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the letter. We appreciate it. And seriously, folks, any comments that you have, we love constructive criticism. We love praise. Any comments you have just helps us. So please continue to write.
All right, it's your go now.
Oh, it's mine.
Yep.
After all that, it's mine. Another letter from Cody C., which, as we all know, we know Cody. Cody works at NASA.
Yep.
Just finished listening to episode 17. Another outstanding show. Well done. See?
Hey, we're getting something right.
Yeah. Nos, when you mentioned my previous letter and that everything you were saying was probably driving me nuts, I actually had to pull my car over. I was laughing so hard.
I think that's the second automotive accident we've almost caused.
Apparently, Kerbalcast is a navigation hazard.
Yeah. So try proving that in court, though.
So, on to a quick question for Nos. After listening to the last episode and hearing about your game that will be published, huge congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you had ever heard of or had the chance to play a game called Twilight Imperium. I heard about this game about 2 years ago and watched a few YouTube videos describing its mechanics and themes, but have never had the chance to play it. If you have, I was wondering if you could give me your thoughts on it and whether or not you thought it was worth the purchase price and how difficult it is to play and convince people to play. Looking forward to your next episode and keep up the good work. And we have a very short sign-off. Fly safe.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good.
Have you heard?
Actually, that's probably good coming from a guy from NASA.
Yeah, well, that's right. It's short, to the point, and efficient.
Yeah.
I hope you're not driving as you listen to this, Cody. Have you heard of Twilight Imperium?
Yes, I have. I've played it once.
And I want to make sure this has nothing to do with vampires, right?
No, it doesn't. Okay, so Twilight Imperium, if I suggested anything, first off, I'd suggest 3rd edition. That's the most recent one. Okay, so just to give a description for anyone who's wondering about the game, it is like a very it's like if you were to play a version of Civilization on a big old board. So there's like all these different sections of space, and you control, like basically your own empire. And you have economics, like you can trade with other players and you can build ships and you can construct a fleet. And in the version that I played, I don't know if it's changed in different versions, but in the version I played, you're trying to control a planet that's in the middle of the board and everyone starts at the edge. So you can make you can research build trees in order to enhance your fleet, or you can make trades with other players in order to make money off of them and then make money off of you for resources.
It sounds kind of like a 4X space game just on a board.
Yeah, there's actually,
would that be right?
A growing genre of board games that like they weren't originally called that, but now they're calling them 4X games. And yeah, you're moving around. Do I think it's a good game? Yes, it's well made. As far as the components and all the pieces, they look really good. The art is amazing. It's a really well made game. As far as how it is to play, it's not my kind of game because I don't really like those long, drawn-out strategic games. There are some groups that you'll find that love them, and that's their main thing to do. I will say that on the version that we had, I don't know if it was 2nd or 3rd edition, on the box it said minimum playtime was 6 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the way we played it is we played over 2 nights. So one night we showed up at we all stay up late because we all had evening jobs. We showed up at 10 p.m. and played till 2 a.m. And what we did is we played the first half, and then we came back the next night and we played the second half. Just made sure nothing was moved on the board. Now, as far as a fun game to play, it's very strategic. There's also a lot of diplomacy to it. So, you'll make deals with people, and you may backstab them about it, or you'll make trade agreements, and then you'll double cross them,
right?
Or you'll have a teammate that you work with the entire time, and then you just eventually one of you's going to have to win, so you may have to take them out. The thing that I wasn't wild about is whenever we played it, there weren't any other ways to win except for controlling that planet. You know how in Civilization you can have, a science victory or a war victory?
Right, or a cultural victory.
Yeah, or cultural.
Right.
There's multiple ways to win. So if you're not doing great in one, you can do great in the others. The race that I played were these lion people. Mm-hmm. And they were great at trading. And I really wanted their
hair care, I would imagine.
Yeah, it should be. There's great manes.
They had to take care of those manes.
He looked fabulous.
You know what? He's the main man.
Ooh!
Ow! Ouch! Sorry,
but
I should warn people. It's okay, bad joke coming.
So you have to. The thing I wasn't wild about is that you have to win in one way. Now each race has different advantages, and you may play to those strengths in order to win. But to answer your 3 questions is it a good purchase? If you can get a group to regularly play it, then yeah, you can get your money out of it. But the hardest parts are you need to find a group that they're all willing to read and understand the rules, and you need to find a group that's okay with playing a game that long. So
I'm guessing fairly steep learning curve.
It's not the first game I would introduce to new gamers.
Okay.
So,
because that was going to be my question for someone who's never played a game like that.
Yeah, it can be kind of rough. Now, some people, they can just jump straight into it, and they can have one complicated game like that, and they really like it. Mm-hmm. So, if it's the kind of people who enjoy something like Risk,
right?
It's long, strategic kind of game. The more people that know the rules, the better off it'll go.
Can I throw in my 2 cents here?
Go for it,
Cody. Do not waste your time on Twilight Imperium. You want to get a game called Garbage Day. That's the game you want. Okay?
Coming soon.
Moving along. So anyway, yeah. The game you want is called Garbage Day.
And Cody, see, the more often you play any game like that 6 to 12 hour thing sounds really, really steep. The more you play it, the faster it goes.
Okay,
so
cool.
Expect your first play to be long, and then each one after that it gets shorter.
Well, I read the question, you answered the question, and now you get to move on to the next item.
Oh, hey, we did that for the last one.
We did too.
This one is about Kerbal X Beta.
Kerbal X.
Okay, so I'm just going to kind of summarize this. But their first thing is, welcome to Kerbal X. Kerbal X is a place to share your Kerbal Space Program craft files, but it's much more than a simple file host.
Yeah, Kerbal X is a website.
Yeah. You can find it
Kerbalx.com.
Kerbalx.com.
And there's no www in front of it.
No, there's not. You can search for craft with specific mods or search for stock craft and filter by construction type, so SPH, VAB style, probe, rover, aircraft, etc., subassemblies, and user-definable tags. Part count range filter coming soon.
If I understand this correctly, this is a gigantic database of user-created ships.
Yeah, and
that you can search for by tag line or by tags.
Yeah,
and you can download those ships and actually use them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
is that correct?
Yeah, it's like you upload your ship and you put tags on it, like 1,200 part count or something.
Right.
And probe core and all this. So somebody could search for a ship that they want to have all these certain parameters, or like Duna Lander. Yeah. And they could search it, and they'll find other ships like that, and they can just copy the file and put it in their game, and boom, they have the ship.
I'm going to search for rollies.
We just need to make that the most popular tag, so everyone's like, "What are these things?" And It's kind of like there was KSP testing.
Nostromo taking the space out of Kerbal Space Program.
Yeah, but I think stay on the ground. It's not
on the ground.
It's not safer, but
it's safer down here.
So it's kind of like a KSP testing was having, where you could put your craft up and other people would, be test pilots for it. I think this will work really well in conjunction for it. I don't know. I didn't see. They probably have their own forums. Most likely. Yeah,
it's in, it says beta, so they're still working on it. So if they don't, I'm sure that's coming.
Yeah, whether or not they do, then, you could be in KSP testing and you could link your ship through there. And, that would be a good place to host all the craft files.
I will say this, a lot of the fun of Kerbal is building your own craft, building your own ships and trial and error, what works, what doesn't. But if you're trying to learn how to do something, downloading a pre-made ship and flying it a couple of times and kind of watching what it does is a good way of learning as well.
Yeah.
Because I was not, you've heard the term asparagus staging.
Yeah.
I was having a hard time getting that correct because I was building these ships and, the minute I start dropping tanks, it would get unbalanced and start wobbling and all kinds of things. Which is not the first time the term unbalanced has been applied to me, by the way.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I finally did was I downloaded an asparagus staging ship, and I flew it a couple of times and watched how it had been constructed and how it operated. And then I was able to turn around and build my own version, not a copy of the one that I had downloaded, but I took the principles that I had learned from it. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, sometimes examples like that really set you ahead.
Yeah. It's the difference between explaining and showing.
Yeah.
Sometimes being able to actually, test fly the craft teaches you more than someone else going, no, here's how it works.
Yeah.
So anyway, the website address, it's kerbalx.com. Moving on.
It's your letter now.
Oh, it's my letter?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to move on. Okay. A teacher with the username Prestets posted to the KSP subreddit that he caught a student playing Kerbal in class. And proof that this is a cool teacher.
Yeah.
Quote, the look on his face was so satisfying when I asked if he had landed on Duna yet. That was one happy kid right there.
That's one of the better ways to be caught. So
he was like, Mr. Prestets, you're the greatest teacher ever.
Yeah.
Responses to the post include this one from fellow educator Mind and Hand. Quote, students want to be challenged and explore interesting, difficult topics. The trouble is setting up an environment where they can do that easily and try out many iterations as they work it out. Games do this really, really well, and I think we're looking at a new age where you will see more of this inside the classroom. Last year, I had Steam for School put on my computers and had students explore gravity topics with Portal. I'm stoked to have KSP going on my computers in the next week or so because it shows complex aerospace subjects in a very simple manner. Trying to describe center of lift and center of gravity to high schoolers is really difficult with props or notes. In KSP, it's going to be amazingly simple and apparent what the effects are. I can't wait. Cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and get educated some more about mods. We're moving on now. DK from the Twitch TV channel Declarations has this week's Modders Minute.
This week we're talking about our first parts mod, KW Rocketry. KW Rocketry is the first parts mod that I would recommend to anyone who is looking at getting into modding their game with new parts. This mod includes over 100 of them, and they are all really quite balanced. There's new radially mounted batteries, nose cones, low-profile decouplers, and I mean low. The 2.5-meter decoupler in KW Rocketry is less than half the size of the Rockomax decoupler. Interstage decouplers, interstage adapter decouplers that go from one size to another. Heavier struts for all your space taping needs. New RCS engine blocks, including a higher thrust model that I just love. Radially mounted SAS units for controlling really big rockets, and lots of fuel tanks and engines. 12 of them, 12 new engines, including a 2.5-meter engine that uses monopropellant. Liquid fuel tank adapters to bring you from one size tank to another and using that space for fuel storage. There's also these wonderfully modeled side-mounted fuel tanks, similar to what the USSR had on their R-7 rockets. There's plenty of different solid rocket boosters to play around with. And if you thought that the 3.75 meter parts were big, wait until you check out KW Rocketry's new 5 meter rocket parts. The big just got bigger.
And the Modder's Minute just got moddier. No.
That was a lot of parts.
Yeah.
They actually sound pretty cool. I like the size converter that actually carries fuel in it, too. Because anytime I put that on there, it's like, well, here's some dead weight.
Yeah.
You know?
You can also get fairings, which is those covers. You know, and that's kind of cool. You put like your lander inside of a nose cone, and then when you get up into when you get out of the atmosphere and you destage that, and the two little pedals just go. It's funny. Every mod that he's mentioned so far is one that I'm using.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, one of these times he's going to hit one that I'm not using.
Yeah, and you're going to feel behind the curve.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's I strongly recommend that. And again, we cannot praise DK enough. That is an excellent segment, and we thank you so much for contributing that. DK gives us Modder's Minute. Dark Mushroom gives us Dark Matters.
Yeah,
we got good stuff coming in.
Yeah, we got some good contributors.
Yeah. You know what? Pretty soon, you and I won't have to do anything.
Yeah, we just set it in motion, and
we'll just go. Here's the next segment that's better than us.
Biff and Nos, CEOs of Kerbalcast.
Yeah,
it's like, what do you guys do anymore? We micromanage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and here's the latest sign off.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on into But I Digress, and this is by request, as I said earlier. DK, who you just heard, and Dahoud, who has his own KSP TV channel.
Yeah, we were interviewed on there. He actually came on here and we interviewed him.
Yeah, that's correct. And he asked us, it was actually when he had us on his channel.
Yeah, it was.
And he actually mentioned during the course of that, he said, hey, would you guys do a Digress segment on Moon? And we said, yeah, we'll get right to that months later.
Yeah.
So here we are. I'm going to start out. This is from IMDb. And this is the description from IMDb, and the description is spoiler free. With only 3 weeks left in his 3-year contract, Sam Bell is getting anxious to finally return to Earth. He is the only occupant of a moon-based manufacturing facility, along with his computer and assistant, GERTY. The long period of time alone, however, has resulted in him talking to himself for the most part or to his plants. Direct communication with Earth is not possible due to a long-standing communication malfunction, but he does get an occasional message from his wife, Tess. When he has an accident, however, he wakens to find that he is not alone. He also comes to realize that his world is not what he thought it was. And at this point, we leave the realm of spoiler-free and we ease right into big old spoilers.
Okay, I was going to ask.
Well, there's no way to talk about this.
Oh, definitely.
Without spoilers.
Yeah.
That is impossible.
If you haven't seen Moon, go ahead and pause us or come back and listen to it later. Go watch Moon now.
Yeah.
Go watch Moon.
Watch Moon. Save this for later. Strongly recommend this movie. It's a very good movie. But again, we're gonna have to get into spoilers because otherwise that would be the entire Digress what I just read.
Yeah. Well, the first thing on the movie is, whenever I first heard the premise, like 4-year mission on the backside of the moon by yourself,
right?
But you're pretty much good, set for life as far as finances go. The question always, I'd always ask people, would you do it?
Right.
Would you spend 4 years, in isolation, just doing this menial task, and then come back and you'd be financially set?
Right.
And would you?
Would I?
Yeah.
Oh God, in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I would do it just to be on the moon. But
see, the thing is, okay, first of all, I'm very much of a solitary person, so that wouldn't bother me. Number 2, the moon, being on the moon. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh baby, sign me up.
Now you get to do all that, but you can't take KSP with you.
Oh, never mind. Forget that.
The movie starts off, and he's been it was 3 weeks left.
Yeah, he's got 3 weeks left. Sam Rockwell is playing the part of Sam Bell, which, from what I understand under the trivia, Sam Rockwell is who they had in mind from the beginning when they were writing the movie.
Which I can see it. Which really, the previous roles you'd seen him in was like Guy Fleegman.
Yeah,
you know,
from Galaxy
like
Quest.
And
go ahead.
I hadn't really seen him in too many things where I saw him as much of a serious, like drama actor. You know, he was in a lot of stuff, and I know he had chops for things. But seeing him in this, it's like, okay, he's got the full range. Put him in something big, you know.
There was also a little bit of trivia, one last little bit of trivia, and then we'll talk about the movie proper. I mentioned that they had Sam Rockwell in mind. The they that I am referring to is the director, Duncan Jones, who is David Bowie's son.
Oh.
Because you remember, David Bowie's real name is David Jones.
Oh, okay.
When he was starting out, the Monkees were real big, and since Davy Jones was real big, they figured that David Jones and Davy Jones, guess who would win that battle?
Yeah.
And that's where David Bowie came from. And then, ironically, one of the producers on the film is Trudy Styler. She's married to Sting.
Oh.
So this is like a rock royalty movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, let's venture into the world of spoilers now. This is your last warning. What happens is Sam Bell finds out as the movie progresses that he is not really Sam Bell. He is a clone of Sam Bell. And the reason that he has a 3-year mission, the movie never says this explicitly, but it is certainly implied. Clones only have about a 3-year lifespan. That's when they start having serious health problems.
Yeah, and they start to just deteriorate.
And there's a giant room. I guess basically it's the lunar basement. It's under the moon base that he's on, and it's just got hundreds. It looks like hundreds of clones, all sitting there, deactivated, just waiting to be put into service. And he's hallucinating, and he has an accident, and so the station basically wakes up another clone. And the way the movie is done, you don't realize that you're on to clone number 2.
Yeah.
You started with Sam Bell clone number 1. Now you're on clone number 2, and you don't realize it at first.
This is the thing that sold me on the movie. Besides just everything else, just had a really good atmosphere, and it was really... So I didn't know anything about the movie whenever I started watching it, you know.
It was the way they make that transition. I had to actually go back and watch it because I was after the movie. The first time I saw it, I was thinking, wait a minute, how did we get from Clone 1 to Clone 2? And then I went back and went, oh.
Well, okay.
They really very cleverly sneak it past
So
you.
it starts off with him kind of living, you know, just the life on the space station.
Yeah.
You know, he works out, you know, he does these things, you know, he hits these buttons and commands these little, you know, rovers around.
Yeah. And what he's doing, just to be clear, he is mining an element called helium-3.
Yeah.
Which the moon had. I mean, that's an actual thing. If there was a cost-effective way of getting it, we would basically have solved the energy crisis.
Uh-huh.
And that's his job. There's an automated station mining helium-3, and his job is to make sure the automated devices continue to work, and also he bundles up the helium-3 harvest and sends it back to Earth periodically.
Yeah, on these like little drones.
Yes. Proceed.
You know, the accident happens and a new clone gets awakened. Well, he comes back. Well, he makes it through his accident.
Right.
Like he's not, he didn't die in it. But the base thought he did.
Right.
And so he's standing in a room with, the new recruit, Sam Bell, and him.
Sam Bell and Sam Bell are in a room together.
Yeah. But the way it portrays it is you don't know if it's like at first you're like, his personality split.
Yeah.
Like he had an accident and he hit his head on top of being alone for that long.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking to himself and now he's physically seeing himself.
Right.
And the way they're interacting and they're like, oh, wait, no, he's a clone. Wait, no, he's crazy.
Yeah.
No, he's a clone.
Yeah.
No, he's crazy. And how many times you bounce back and forth in that scene alone, like that, I was like, I don't care what else they do in this movie. Like, this scene alone is worth it.
Well, that's why I recommended earlier, if you haven't seen this movie, don't, avoid the spoilers, because really that's the best way to experience this movie.
Yeah, the less you know, the better it is.
Yeah, because
which is too late now.
The previews make it sound almost like it's a horror movie. You know, they show you the fact that, you know, that there's this guy all by himself on a moon base, and he finds like another version of him, and the way they imply in the trailer, if I remember correctly, is like it's a dead version of him.
Yeah.
You know, so they kind of imply there's like a horror element. The first time they mentioned the word clone when I was watching the movie, I was thinking to myself, oh, I don't know if I buy that. But then where they went with it, I was like, okay.
Yeah, the way that, like, because remember how we were talking about Solaris?
Yeah.
The way that they were advertising that one?
Right.
Advertisers really don't know how to sell movies that are sci-fi that aren't sci-fi horror. Like, they're like, oh, it's scary. It's like, well, no. Whatever, just put the trailer out. You know?
Just go see it.
Yeah.
Well, it is the one thing. Every time I've watched this, I've managed. I usually pick up something out of it every time I watch it, and I watched it again this past weekend in preparation for But I Digress.
Yeah.
And one thing that it's always been there, but one thing I noticed this time probably more than anything, these guys are basically slaves. They are biological organisms that are created. They have no freedom. I mean, they can't communicate with Earth. They can't leave the base.
And worse than worse than knowing that you're a slave is not knowing that you're a slave. Like the illusion of freedom.
Yeah.
Like they thought they had a family they were going home to, and it was just these recordings.
Well, I mean, invisible chains are still chains.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is they don't realize that they're slaves. And the movie never, ever uses the word slave.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean about it's so subtle. The closest they get to it is the computer. It's this movie's version of the HAL 9000 from 2001. There's an interactive AI computer on board or on the station, and it's GERTY. And it's voiced by Kevin Spacey.
Mm-hmm.
And GERTY, once the two clones become aware of each other, GERTY starts helping them. And at one point, one of the clones says, you know, GERTY, why did you help us? And he says, you know, that way we can get back, to being productive. We can essentially hit the reset button now, and we can go back to following our programming. And Sam says, we're people. We don't have programming. And that is the closest slavery statement the movie makes.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by subtle. But one thing that strikes me about this movie, in terms of plot, have you noticed that there's very little plot in this movie?
Yeah. It's like, it's just kind of, it's really big on discovery. Like, you know as much as he does.
Yeah.
And you never feel like, oh, now he's going to find out this. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, if you go with the traditional 3-act structure, Act 1 is they show you what's normal. Act 2 is they change something. And then Act 3 is they resolve it. Well, Act 1 and Act 2 in this movie, very quick. They don't really keep the mystery of what's going on going too long.
Yeah.
I mean, they show you what an average day is like, and then they change things up, and then they tell you what it is, and then the rest of the movie is Act 3.
It's kind of like it's like a slow walk.
Yeah.
You know, the way it just goes through things. There's not like a bunch of explosions and like, you know, they sum up the plot from a 5-minute call from the president or anything, you know.
Or some diagram on a screen.
Yeah.
One thing I give Sam Rockwell a lot of credit for, even though he is playing the same character, because, you know, as an actor, you think in terms of, okay, you're going to play 3 versions of the same character. Okay, do I play it the same way? No. What he does is he creates distinct personalities.
Yeah.
The very first clone that we meet, the one that is close to the end of his 3-year contract, and the second clone we meet, which has just been woken up, they're 2 very different individuals.
Yeah.
And there's no question that they're 2 very different individuals. Clone number 1, from our point of view, is a fairly laid-back, somewhat humble person. He's been humbled by his solitude.
Yeah.
You know, he had marital trouble. His wife had left him. And apparently, this is also unspoken, but apparently they had kind of said, why don't you go away, go do your 3-year assignment and let's use that time to our advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see that in that 3 years, he had evolved to being a more caring, more mature individual. The new Sam Bell, clone number 2 for us, comes out and he is, even though they're wearing basically the same clothes.
Yeah.
Clone number 1, it's like they're kind of sloppy and hanging off of him.
Mm-hmm.
Clone number 2 comes out and it's almost like he ironed himself.
Yeah.
He's very sharp. He's also very cocky. He's very arrogant. And he's very cold. He's very harsh. And he's also quick to anger. There are 2 very distinct personalities here.
Mm-hmm.
And, they get closer to each other. Clone number 2 becomes closer to clone number 1 in temperament as he learns more. But I think for Sam Rockwell, I think that was he did a very good job.
Yeah, a great display of talent right there.
I mean, and especially when you consider that he was acting to nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, because there weren't 2 of him.
Yeah. They didn't have 2 of them. I'm sure they had a stand-in.
Yeah.
But I mean, he really does pull it off very well. And there is a great deal of, you really, the more you learn about these guys, the worse you feel. Because, imagine if everything you knew, everything you thought you knew was a lie.
Yeah, it was fabricated.
That wife you thought you had is not your wife.
Yeah.
That child that you thought you had is not your child. Imagine having all that taken away from you. And that's where you really get into the, to the larger theme, which is going back to humanity. Okay, they're clones, but they're thinking, feeling individuals, and what's being done to them is horrible. And, they're having their humanity torn away from them. They are humans who don't even have basic human rights.
Yeah.
So I just, that's part of what makes it so emotionally satisfying when clone number 2, Sam Bell, gets away.
Uh-huh.
Because he manages to slip those invisible chains.
Yeah, and it's the first one, like he knows that it's like, I never really had a chance to live how I thought I was,
right.
And I'm going to die, but this is freedom, but it's not going to do me any good.
That's the other thing that's really kind of hard to watch is and I don't mean to be dismissive by saying clone 1 and clone 2. It's really the only way
to refer to them.
Yeah, it's an easy way to keep them straight. But clone number 1, by the time we see him, he's at the end of his 3-year lifespan, and he is literally falling apart.
Yeah, he's looking gone.
He's literally got teeth falling out of his head, and he's vomiting up blood. And and there's a montage they show of the way the mission ends is they get into what they think is an escape pod that is going to fly them back to Earth. And instead what it does is it incinerates them.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that just final little kick in the butt, which is, we've used you for 3 years. We've denied you all your humanity. We've lied to you. And now, right when you think you're going to get the golden prize, we kill you.
Yeah, here's your false hope,
It's monstrous.
Yeah. And you look at what it had been culminating to this. Mm-hmm. If you look, like, all of this had been building up to it and it needed to work, because like those recordings over the years had started to, because I don't know if they ever say how long they'd been doing this for. He
makes a phone call to Earth. You remember Eve?
Yeah.
His daughter.
Yeah.
I don't remember what her age was, but that would be... Yeah. Because remember, she was a newborn in some of the earlier videos.
Yeah.
So it had to be, if I had to guess, I'd say she's somewhere between 15 and 18.
Uh-huh.
So 15 to 18 years, my guess.
Yeah. So, you're looking at like a big batch of clones.
Yeah.
So what would that be, 9? No,
yeah.
no, that'd be 8.
Yeah, well, let's round it and say 8. Let's say 18. Let's say she's 18. That would mean this is the sixth.
Yeah,
you're on
God,
generation 6.
My math was awful right there. That was
okay.
despicable.
What's bad is I'm the one who's usually horrible at math.
Yeah, I was thinking them in years, in 2-year intervals or something. Anyway,
thank you, multiplication rock.
Yeah,
3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30.
You know, the highlight of this is that all of that will be edited out now, so they'll never hear my awful math.
That or I'll edit in Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah. So if she's like 18, that means they've gone through probably around 6.
Yeah. Clone number 1 that we know is probably number 6.
Yeah. So yeah, they've gone through 6 iterations of this.
Assuming some clone somewhere didn't run himself over. Or something.
Yeah. So yeah, because anytime there's an accident, a new one would get printed.
Right.
And so there were so many of them going through, and it kind of like culminated this because the recordings were wearing out, and you know the thing was starting to go into decay, and then GERTY had been slowly learning.
Yeah.
You know, and he'd been learning from each one, and like you could tell there's like this little bit of care that had started to grow.
Right.
But he knows whenever he does this that he'll be wiped of all of his memory, and he's okay with it because you know he knows what he is.
Well, see, that's, again, going back to what I said, where I think the overall theme is humanity. When Sam Bell, clone number 2, GERTY comes up and says, Sam, this isn't going to work because the minute you leave and they show up, they're going to look at my memory and they're going to know exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And GERTY himself says, why don't you set it to where it erases my memory and that way they won't know? Well, do you notice what Sam Bell says at that point? He says, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Sam Bell, clone number 2, has more humanity towards GERTY than, his corporate overlords, to use an expression, has towards him.
And because of that...
And even though GERTY's not human.
Yeah, and because of that, GERTY's okay with it. And he's like, yes, go ahead and erase everything. Which... if that didn't work, it would have set the clock back to 0 because they would have gone in, put in new stuff, and then, you would maybe have to go another 18 years before, that clone may or may not have run into a circumstance to start that process over, if at all.
Am I making too much out of the humanity theme?
No,
Okay.
I think it's definitely along those lines because you see, like, whenever he first encounters, he's like, please tell me I'm not a clone. It's like, that's devastating news to him because, I mean, imagine figuring out that, you're a fabricated being.
Right.
It's like, I was made specifically from a person and I serve no other purpose than this. He's shattered by it, and it's like he goes through, like, a really rough transition realizing it, where the other one, he's just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Well, did you notice that deflection? The clone number 2. I mean, when you first meet him, that arrogance. He's like, well, you're a clone. I'm not a clone.
Yeah.
It was just it was that arm's length thing again.
Yeah.
Which is just, hey, your problem, buddy, not mine.
Which whatever problem he may have had with his family that led whatever original version of Sam was up there. I mean, that was the attitude that got him there.
One question I have, when clone number 1, he gets in one of the lunar vehicles, and these things look like lunar dump trucks, to be honest with you. I mean, about the only thing they're missing is the big, the big bed.
Big hatch, yeah.
But he drives to where he gets outside of the radio interference that's preventing them from communicating with Earth, and he makes a phone call back home. And that's when he discovers the newborn daughter that he thought he has is actually 15 or 18 years old. We're assuming 18. And that's also when he discovers that his wife, the wife that he thought he had passed away years earlier.
Yeah.
And the daughter calls to her father, Dad, there's somebody on the phone asking about Mom. And you hear Sam Bell's voice answer, who is it? Or something like that. That made me wonder, was this all done with his knowledge? Is he a willing participant in all this?
It depends on his perspective on it.
Yeah.
Because it depends on whether or not he views clones as people.
Right.
Which, I mean, we don't know the state of the Earth. I mean, if cloning is happening at all. If it's not, then that's an incredibly new problem they just ran into.
That's a question that I've always wondered about, is what does the actual Sam Bell think about all this?
Yeah.
Does he even know?
Yeah.
Or if what I mean, for all I know, the corporation said, yeah, we're going to make these clones and we're going to lovingly let them, roam free and,
Now, I didn't think that was the question you were going to ask. I thought the question you were going to ask is...
you mean I threw you?
No, I thought you were going to ask the other question that a lot of people have asked is the woman.
Oh, Tess?
No, the one.
Oh, the one that he sees.
Yeah, the one that he sees.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, he's. Well, anyone who's listened this far has obviously seen the movie, so they know what you're talking about. I almost explained it.
I wonder a couple things. My speculations on who she is. Now, I haven't really thought about her representing something. Yeah. This is just like in that world, who she may have been is part of the reason that he ended up in marital trouble with Tess.
Right.
Or one of the doctors who was engineering the clones.
That's possible.
Yeah.
That's possible.
Those are two possibilities I considered.
And so we conclude another episode of But I Digress. And that means we're moving on to this week's challenge from Shea.
This challenge is for the more advanced listeners of the podcast. I have a simpler one for those less experienced. The NASA update added asteroids to the Kerbal system. The challenge is to get an asteroid into circular orbit around Kerbin. Once in an orbit, build a base on that asteroid. No rules for this challenge, only no infinite fuel cheats. The challenge for the less experienced requires you to channel your inner pyromaniac. That's right, a Kerbal cannon. If you can place a Kerbal behind an engine when it's firing, it sends the little guy flying. Challenge is to see how far you can launch the little green bullets. I highly recommend using sandbox mode.
Are you serious? You can do... Oh, my God.
I'd never done it.
Now, that surprises me, because I would think that you, of anybody...
I'm a little disappointed in myself now.
I'm kind of disappointed in you, too.
For my speculation, I believe the hidden edition is going to be a randomly generated asteroid belt. That's all for now. I can't wait to see the asteroid bases and Kerbal cannons. Breathe deep, fly high.
Breathe deep and fly high. Okay, so there you go, folks. You've got your latest Shea challenge.
That's like the motto for the Kerbals. Just breathe deep and fly high when you get launched from a Kerbal cannon.
Really?
Yeah.
A Kerbal cannon?
Yeah.
Honestly, until now, I thought with the rollies and the spinnies and the swimmies, I'd heard it all.
Yeah.
That, I have to say, that actually, that's up, that puts up in the same area.
Yeah, I wonder if they ever put magnets, you can start building rail guns.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be pretty fun.
Oh, God.
Railgun launch system?
Railgun launch system. Well, okay, so that wraps it up for episode 18 of, did you hear that?
Yeah. Do we got a mic hit?
Mic hit. We have a late stage mic hit. That wraps it up for episode 18 of Kerbalcast. And before we go, there are some folks that we do want to thank.
We want to thank all of our listeners, including our regular contributors, DK, Shea, and Dark Mushroom.
Also, we want to thank the folks at Squad for a great game. We want to thank the moderators at the subreddits, Kerbal Space Program, and Kerbal Academy. They have links to us on their front page.
All the music you've heard is by Professor Soap. You can find him at facebook.com/Professor Soap.
And you can contact us. And again, we welcome any feedback, constructive or praise or whatever.
Yeah, or stories or suggestions.
Yeah, story. If you do the challenge, we'd love screenshots, or we would love stories about them. We love your letters. We love your comments. Tell us about your experience in the game. Anything you want to communicate to us, you can send it via email, kerbalpodcast@gmail.com, or on Twitter, it's @Kerbalcast.
You can subscribe to us on iTunes or download episodes directly from kerbalpodcast.libsyn.com.
And that does it for today's program. I'm your LMP, Lunar Module Pilot Biff Aldrin. Our command module pilot, CMP,
Nostromo.
Until next time,
happy Kerbaling. The huge But I Digress session.
I need more bass. Give me some more bass. Oh, baby. Yeah.
Kerbalcast, episode 18. We will survive. And then we'd play the clip from the song.
Yep.
And now you're back from outer space.
Get up on that mic.
Kerbalcast, episode 18. Walking on Moonshine.
Walking on moonshine.
Sipping some moonshine.
Sucking on moonshine. The latest Kerbal news. And Nas. Nostromo. Schnoz Stromo. Well, let me try that again. See, this is where we read your letters and our Kerbal news. And Nas has our first... Did I do it again? I said it again. Nas. Yeah, this is what I get for a 2-week break.
You don't even know me anymore.
I don't even know you anymore, man. You've changed. You've changed. Ignore what I just said. Let's move on. Please save me.
From Pun Pundit. From Pun Pundit. Pun Pundit. Pun Pundit. Pun Pundit. Pun Pundit. I'm listening to all your podcasts so far.
She thought she was... You thought she was going to smack you down?
Yeah. I was like, uh-oh.
Okay.
And you're like, I agree. And they're like, oh, okay, all right.
Every time I've gotten to where if I see the word Twilight...
Yeah.
Twilight! No!
And none of them...
Sorry. Honestly, I wish Anne Rice would go to Stephanie Meyer's house and just beat the out of her. If you disagree... I'm trying to think... I'm sorry. For some reason, this is stuck. This phrase is stuck in my... I can't seem to get this phrase out.
DK, Shea, and Dark Mushroom. Mushroom.
Dark mustard.
Dark mustard. Dark mustard.
Nas is hungry.